Yes, can all of you hear me? Hello, can all of
Yes,
you
sir.
hear
Good
me?
morning. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Should we wait for anyone else to come, or how many people joined here? 11 people. The mock discussion for all batches, no? People are slowly trickling in. So we'll wait for 2 minutes and then we'll start. How are you analyzing your mocks? Are you analyzing your mocks also? Yes. That advertisement that just popped, Mukesh Ambani ka thank is now करके. Do you think that will really happen? Do you think the Reliance Industries will fall? Have any clue what's happening around? Akash Ambani is now the CEO of, I think, Geo Informatics. Sorry? Geo Director. Okay, I don't know the name, but Geo Gandhi, he's become the president of India or something, the highest executive power. Mukesh Ambani is that guy. So a lot of people are thinking that the Reliance Industries will fall. But in fact, even today, if you see, it's grown by 1.2% or something. Yes, true. Akash was involved right from the very starting. He's worked on strategy and all for Geo. Even that marketing campaign for Geo or Geo Dhandhanagan, that was Akash's idea. I'm not sure if that part was his. Yeah, I'm not sure if that part was his too, but yes, Akash Ambani was involved over there. And but why did Mukesh Ambani really do this? Think of it at least as critical reasoning and tell me. GK to hai yaar. If you are applying for IIFT, these kind of questions are bound to come. Akash Ambani bana, kaun bana and all. If you look at the succession plans of the topmost corporate, families all over the world, there's a certain strategy of growth and succession in those lines. When you have a lot of industries, it's very hard for you to take a complete charge, especially either you don't have the knowledge or you don't have the support. That means people might not really be happy with that. Okay, so there's a lot of chance that people might leave, knowing that okay, Mukesh Ambani is not the CEO anymore. So people do this slowly in stages. इसको भी तो कभी ना कभी निकलना ही था ना अंबानी को. So it's all a succession plan. 5 years from now, we'll get to know the results. Okay, so if you clear your CAT or anything, you have something called as a writing assessment test. Over there also, just like the genres of RCs, you'll have to think and write an entire essay of somewhere around 300 words in 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, depends from college to college. CAP colleges have a different, around the top 7 to 8 colleges have a different way of, taking for it. The others have another way. So it depends on where you're going and where you're going to shortlist. Okay, how much is going your week? 42. Okay. 44. Okay. Then Lochan. Any negatives lo poya? Attempts any? 17. Sir, children, Nana, 11. 11. So na last time negative లో ఉంటే ఇప్పుడు ఏమొచ్చి 11 కి వచ్చు. Good, no, there's improvement. Yeah. How many negatives though? Once open your portals, check how many negatives. Because we've already done 5 mocks. We've seen how to attempt the questions. Now it is to see which questions should we not attempt. Now it's time to get smarter about picking questions. Though you are good with that passage, doesn't mean you'll pick all the 4 questions in that. No, you should get smarter at picking questions. So how many negatives, Sumant? 5. Sumant, one. That means you would have gotten 21 more marks, 18 more marks, and 5 negatives. So 11, 15. So 26 was an easy achievable goal. So 11 is very low. How many people do? Why you're not able to finish through the paper? Not able to read through the paper. Next mock, try doing the VA section. This week, practice VA. Next mock, do the VA section first. You have 3 more days for the next mock, no? Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Practice VA. Do maybe some 20-30 para jumbles, 20-30 para summaries from the textbook. VA. Then go ahead and try to solve it. Don't look at your solutions, look at the accuracy. How are you able to connect ideas? Same with you, Lochin. Try doing VA first. How many negatives? Very low rate. Let's go to the first passage. How many of you have attempted the classes? Okay, so all of you are not attempted this. What? You focus on? Okay, PA. And how many of you got these correct? How many of you got all this? All the four. You got 3 correct. 3 correct. Right. So you did not understand the passage. Okay. Yeah. Correct. So did you understand this passage? Yes. Oh, yeah, you didn't. All you didn't understand this passage. Okay, so one of you, can you tell me what was going on in your mind? What kind of writing style is this? See, comprehension and reading are 2 different things. We've been looking at it that way only right from the first class. Yes. So when you're reading it, how are you comprehending it? If you've gotten all 4 wrong, that means clearly you missed the main point of the passage. Yes. Okay. So let's first quickly once look at what were the answers. Okay, no problem. Praveen has animated it properly. Yeah. So should we go through this passage? Not correct. It's perfect. Right. Okay, should we go to the passage? Yes. Lochin, can you tell me what the passage writing style will be? What would be the writing style of this? No, you're close. It looks like this building, but there's one distinction. You get the first 2 lines. The factual writing. Okay. How do we discriminate between those 2? We can very clearly see it from we can very clearly see it from here itself. That we are talking about Mao, right? And we are telling about him in the facts of it. And then we are starting to describe. Okay. So this is factual description. So we are going to consider it as a factual writing style. Yes, what all are descriptive passages? Narratives are descriptive, factual are descriptive, and descriptive are also descriptive. All of them are description. But how makes the difference? Okay, good. So that was the first thing that we should have done. Look at the passage, determine which genre. We have decided this is what culture, so falls under humanities. Yes. Now we've seen it's not very, very long. So we can comfortably read through this in what, 2.5 minutes, maybe? Can I say that? Are you guys marking your time? You're seeing how much time you're taking per passage? All right. So all these things fit our criteria of should we attempt this. The Communist Party of China was founded in 1921 and Mao was one of the 13 founder members. In 1945, he was elected the chairman of Communist Party and that position he held until his death in 1970. Nana? Yeah, okay. So let us say that you got this passage as your first passage on the screen. First thing you look is read the first 2 lines. Then read the last 2 lines. Try and ask yourself, do I understand enough of the passage? Okay, once can you read the first 2 lines and tell me what do you understand from it? No, munduku vache. Sarani stuff too. Okay, so you get on to that work while I start explaining. All right. Yeah. So for the first 3 lines till this part, can I say that he described how Mao came to succession, how he rose in power, basically. Okay. See, you don't need to use the same words as me. Use whatever words, just remember the ideas. That's more than important for us. Okay. Yes, can I say that? Next, what is he telling? His characteristics. Yes, so far he's been described as someone who's very crude. Crude means basic. Someone who's very old-fashioned. Okay. But now we are saying that not only that, but he was also a man of poetry. So we are showing contrast in that character. We're not saying that he was very strict or very ruthless. There was also another different side to him. Okay. He could resort by turn to inspiration, eloquence, persuasion, intimidation, and liquidation. That means, see, he's giving you a range of what all he could go through. Okay. Nayana, Bhayana, and Tankala. Basic. Yeah, you got the idea. First 2 lines, last 2 lines. What do you understand from? From that, what can we get? Okay, this passage talks about this broadly. For example, in this particular passage, if I'm skimming this passage, I will see that, okay, he's talking about Communist Party of China, CPC, and Mao. And last mistake, what do I see? Mao's great contribution to the Chinese Revolution lines. So maybe I will understand that this is a passage that talks about story of Mao and his involvement in different kind of activities. Okay, with that brief understanding, I will see, do I have the familiarity of this? So what kind of familiarity would you be looking for this? You'd be looking at IR, you'd be looking at politics, which is why I told you about culture. And since this is not on the current date, you'd have to look at history and culture. So if you're familiar with these reading this passage will be okay. Yesterday, him and I were sitting and I think I was doing this passage. It took me 1 minute 42 seconds to read this. Why? Because I have done a lot of IR in my college. I was a debater, so this was like a daily read thing for me. Okay. So if you are not someone who's done a lot of IR or politics, I suggest don't go for this passage first. Look for a passage that you're really familiar with. Again, go through the other passage, skim through. Okay, for example, let me just go forward from here. And let's say over here in this new passage. The first 2 lines are, since the dawn of recorded law, Western societies have recognized that some people should be held liable for their acts because they are non-compos mentis, not in their right mind. So somehow I understand that this is going to talk about some kind of mental health and legal. Let me come to the last line. Last, not exactly last line. In the last paragraph, I want to take it. So over here, I maybe start from here. Last, but some ideas are there. Okay, so I can understand at least where is the passage going. Approximately 15% of those incarcerated. Incarcerated means what? Jailed. Even if you don't know that, pakkane you vote in prisons. Okay. So yeah, approximately 15% of those incarcerated in US prisons have serious mental health disorders. Moment I read this part, I understand, yes, definitely he's talking about mental. So now I'm very confident this is familiar to me. I'd go with this passage. Get it? Did I read through the whole passage? Do I know anything about the passage? No, but I know I can answer. At least that I can understand. Answer it or not is a later issue. Got it? So how do we skim through passages? Now do you understand? First passage. Yeah. So far we have seen the first paragraph of it. So here till here, what do we see? We see that Mao's rights. Very simply, let's write. ज़्यादा नहीं लिखने का. हम लोग जितना माइंड वॉच करना था कर लिए. अभी थोड़ा थोड़ा लिखो, बाकी का दिमाग में रखो. Keep it in your mind. Okay. The more you invest your time into writing, the more you're taking time per passage. That's why I told you only write in the start. By now it should have been a habit. Otherwise, do it in practice. Don't do it in mocks. Clear? Well. So Mao's rights. Well, what kind of person was he? Okay. And next what can we see? He would almost simultaneously as an imperious emperor. What is imperious emperor? Someone who is very, very disciplined. Okay, a disciplinarian. Someone who enforces rules and they want those rules to be followed like that. Okay, imperious emperor as well as a lone monk walking the world with a leaky umbrella. What does that mean? It means that either he's someone who is looked at as a very great, very strict, very nice nice emperor, or is going as a person who is always solid. There are two extremes of it. Good. So first para talked about the characteristics of Mao and Mao's rights. Second para, although he was considered to be infallible not having even one flaw. Okay, he's great. He made many mistakes or serious mistakes. What are these mistakes? 100,000 already paid you. 1,000 you don't need to. That's the best part. I'm telling you again and again. Moment you know that it's a factual passage. Remember our Harry Potter passage? Did I tell you to remember the details? No. Just know which detail is where. Because what kind of questions can come from a factual passage? 90% specific detail. What others can come? Depends on your writing style. Now you found out that this is what? Factual. But how is he going? If he presenting arguments, then maybe implied idea question might also. If he's not presenting arguments, he's only giving you facts. No chance of implied idea question. Got it? Yes. So these are all facts about what his failures or his mistakes. What all are there? 100 laws of project that she was saying. Some project like this. 100 some policy or some project. 100 flowers, the grade being followed. These are policies. And even the people that he told or he recruited, you will be my successor. They also kind of what happened here. Someone wrote something in chat. Can you guys hear me properly now? Pradeep? Vishnu?
Sir, we are able to hear, but sometimes it's oscillating. It's becoming slow, low and high.
Okay, that's probably because I'm moving from one side to the other. I'll stand at one place and talk. Okay. Yeah. Just tell me if this is better. If all of you can hear me well.
Yes. Sir.
Okay. All right. So over there, he has mentioned about the mistakes that he has done. Next, what is he saying? Another mistake is that the people he has chosen as his successors. That also is not proper. They turned out to backbite him. Okay, you can see the word viper. Viper is what? A type of a snake. Okay, that's the Next, what happened? Whatever the compulsion that forced him to launch the great proletarian cultural revolution. Now, here comes one word that I'm sure none of you must have heard. Proletarian. You've heard this? Good. You've heard? Huh? Yes. This is a class, so proletarians or proletariat is a noun referring to a class of people. So it becomes a collective noun referring to a class of people who only derive their income from labor work. Labor people, construction masons, goldsmiths, blacksmiths, all these. Are there any goldsmiths? Yeah, goldsmiths. Okay. So labor చేసుకుని బ్రతికే వాళ్ళు proletariat. So what do we understand about Mao? He had some kind of an urge, okay, or whatever that causes, he launched the proletarian cultural revolution. The convulsions caused by it haunted China for long. What does that mean? The repercussions. Ante effect annadi is neutral word, no, over here. We'll have to use the same tone. So repercussions is a negative word here. Okay, so that repercussion followed China for extremely long. India cannot forgive him for her humiliation at his hands in 1962. Okay, who is this him, her? Huh? Yes, her is India and him is China. So who is his? Obviously, China. Okay, what is this called? This is called as personification. Okay, you might have seen this sometimes when we are reading about plastic pollution in Ganga. Have you ever read that articles about plastic? No, I've never. Yeah, Ganga is referred to as her. Okay, so sometimes there is some concept called as legal personhood. Countries get legal personhoods. Sometimes rivers and important environmental things get legal personhood. Anji? Yeah, these days animals also. Not always. It depends on the might and how that culture has led. China, Russia, USA, all these are men. Because they've been those, typical men characteristic countries. Anji? Racism, not racism, but gender classification, manlo. Wherein India's culture has been very welcoming, very soft, nurtured and all. So it's called as a woman. The same way Ukraine is called as a woman, but Russia is called as a man.
Here, forgive him does not mean mouse.
Right?
India cannot forgive.
No, because if we are attributing her as India, then him also needs to be China. Okay. So Mao believed that to some extent. So what does this passage talk about? This passage talks about fallacies of Mao. Okay, this passage talks about fallacies of Mao. Clear? Okay, next. Mao believed that to some extent the personality cult was indispensable. That means people are bound to have a personality cult. What does personality cult mean? What is it? That means they are in a systematic arrangement wherein they are influenced by other people's personalities. Okay, this could be a personality cult too. Maybe if I'm talking to you for 10 different days and I have this habit of using the filler, right? So you might get used to that. You talk to someone for like 10 days or so, you pick up 1 or 2 words of their tongue, no? The same way, you pick up personalities also. Okay, so he said to have observed Khrushchev had fallen because he had no cult of personality at all. On one occasion, Mao is said to have observed that the 4 greats, great teacher, great leader, great supreme commander, and great helmsman as protector of the region. Okay, have you seen Thor? Yeah, Heimdall was a helmsman. Okay. Thrust on him were a nuisance. That means who ascribed these 4 things on him? He called them as a nuisance. That means you giving me these titles was not worth it. He was confident that sooner or later, 3 of them will disappear and only the teacher will remain. That means he was confident that now or in future, he would be one of the greatest teachers, but not the other 3. While adapting Marxist theories to Chinese environment. Okay, so what do we understand from this part? How Mao portrayed himself. Look, the entire passage is about Mao. It's not about anyone else, right? And in the author's thing, so I can think about. Okay, one good question. What do you think is the source of this passage? Not which website. Where do you think we must have gotten it from? Yes. Because the author is writing about Mao from that person's perspective. So this is a third eye view of that person. Are you getting it? Those are biographies. No. If I am writing about Hema, Hema did this, Hema must have thought like that. Hema చెప్పిందా ఏంటి నాకు అలా ఆలోచించాను. No, it's a third eye view about what that person must have thought of himself. Okay, let us say that Hema goes for jogging every day at 5 o'clock. Yes, maybe I can, I love myself so. But maybe I can think that she's watching her weight, or she's trying to get fit for something. So that becomes my inference. Get it? So in this kind of thing, again, we can get inference-based questions. Because it's a third person. And that third person is who? Author himself. Got it? Okay. So here it is Mao's thoughts of himself. It looks like doctor handwriting, but yeah, with this board, it's like that only. Okay. Next, while adapting Marxist theories to Chinese environment, Mao was an innovator. He was firmly of the view that Marxist principles had to be adjusted to the circumstances prevailing in China and could not be used in abstract manner. What does that mean? ऐसे ही कुछ भी उठा के कहीं पे भी नहीं डाल सकते. So you have to localize those principles. That's what he was trying to say. To talk of Marxism without taking into consider the Chinese peculiarity. Peculiarity क्या होता है? Differences. Very crudely, we can understand them as differences. So take off your mask, breathe a little. It's okay. What do we say? It was an empty abstraction. That means it was an empty thought. Please note here we have used abstract in two different contexts altogether. Okay, in the same paragraph. In the first way, yeah, come. Okay. But I always tell you, you can come 1 hour 29 minutes late also. Just close the door now, come sir. Suction, no? Sorry. I always say some shit, I don't know why. But yeah. So over there, abstract manner means what? Without any form. That means without any concrete, what? Norm. Rule. Without any concrete rule. In the below part was an empty abstraction, means was an empty thought. It was just a feeling like it was just some kind of a dream laga. Okay. Yes. Did you write this paper? Yes. Did you attempt this passage? Yeah. Did you get all of them correct? How many correct? To quote him, consequently, the significance of Marxism, that is to say, making certain that in all of its manifestation, it is imbued with Chinese peculiarities, becomes a problem that must be understood and solved by the whole party without delay. That means the entire party. Which party? Yes, CPC needs to sit and solve the problem. What problem? Of how to adapt Marxism to China with that peculiarities. Okay, Chakri wins now. Huh? Oh, after choose now. Okay. Okay. Right. So we must put an end to writing 8-legged essays on foreign models. What are these 8-legged essays? What do you mean by that? Focusing on distinct things, focusing on divergent things. You have to first converse, do one thing and move on. You can't put your legs everywhere and start walking. Okay. What will happen if you put your legs on 2 different boats and start rowing? You're bound to fall. So he says that we must stop, we must put an end to doing things that confuse us more. And we must start with one particular thing. What is that? Adapting Marxism to China with all its peculiarities. Next, what does he say? We must discard our dogmatism and replace it by a new and vital Chinese style and manner pleasing to the eye and to the ear of Chinese common people. That means he needs something that's adaptable to Chinese people, something that's acceptable to Chinese people. What does he mean by we should discard our dogmatism? The rules that we are already following. Tradition becomes too much. Okay, tradition, see, especially when we're talking about a cultural passage, tradition is a core vocab, no, over there. So it has certain meaning. It becomes a keyword for them. हम लोग को change नहीं करना वो. So here he's saying all the rules that Marxism already has. We don't want to follow all those rules. We want to modify it in a way in which way so that it is easy and acceptable to the people of China. Okay. Next, what does he say? Mao put Marxism in Chinese dress. He used anecdotes from the ancient writings from Chinese history and language of the peasants to make his political points with telling force. What is this telling force? Telling force is convincing, putting a convincing argument. Okay, so he put Marxism in the Chinese dress and he put it in a way that it is politically an argumentative form for them to accept easily. Okay, next what's he saying? Mao's great contribution to the Chinese revolution was his reliance on the peasants as a revolutionary force. When the uprisings in the cities failed, Mao realized that China did not possess an urban proletariat in the Marxist sense, and hence he had to depend on the peasants for revolution in the country. So can I say that Marxism failed in Chinese urban cities? Yes, good. Mao's confidence in peasant initiative and resourcefulness became a cause of tension between him and the Politburo's pragmatists after liberation. So what is this Politburo? Anji? Yeah, the political party, political office. Okay, Politburo is political office. Polit comes from the same root as political. Bureau, although not the same root as bureau, is a nearby root. Okay, so political office, which is the Communist Party of China. So here, what is the summary of this paragraph? This paragraph is Marxism to China via Mao. No. Keep करूँगा save हो जाएगा. Every next time if I use the people, same thing will be on that. So okay, you guys remember what was what? No? Yes. अभी तक तो इतना experience आ ही गया होगा ना यार, mind map कर ही लोगे आप. Right, Suman, you got it? Chakri? Okay. Start. Timer పెట్టుకుంటారా please. Those of you who have done these questions wrong, at least put a timer and do this. If you've gotten it correct, that's a different issue. Yeah, what the answer is? Yes, B. How many of you said B? Okay, the rest of you, are you not answering this? Okay, ठीक है. No, now are you answering it? Did your comprehension get better? Try. If your comprehension got better, if the passage got clearer for you now, try the question. आप एग्जाम में कैसे छोड़ना विल डिस्कस दैट, बट फर्स्ट यहाँ पे मॉक एनालिसिस में तो आप आंसर करो ना, कॉन्फिडेंस लाओ अपने आप पे. यस मैम, यू विल आंसर दिस. या ऑल ऑफ अस नो द आंसर, ऑल ऑफ अस गिव द पेपर. This is not discussion of the answers, it's discussion of how the answers came. Will you answer this? Okay, cool. Yes, so apart from B, which one are you guys choosing? Which are you confused amongst? Which option are you confused in? A and B. So A, B lone confusion. So you are confused among B and C. Okay. B and C. Roshan? You think all of them are correct? Huh? Oh, wow. Okay, fine. Which one of the following can be inferred from the passage? Mao was pleased with versatile role he was supposed to play as it satisfied his ego. Fair enough. He was satisfied with his versatile role. But did it satisfy his ego? Are we talking about his ego anyway? Did we tell he's egoistic or anything? No. What did we see throughout the passage? How can we form a character sketch of Mao? We can understand that he was very much into revolutions and all. Yes. And he wanted to do things for the people, especially Marxism, that construct in itself is about not having things for yourself. No. Communism and Marxism, both of them. Right. So over here, we cannot take this to be right. What can we take it? It's an opposite answer. Got it? It is an what do you say? Exact opposite of the character sketch that we've developed from Mao. Got it? Now, B, the Great Leap Forward and Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution were indeed ambitious schemes launched during Mao's regime. Were they in Mao's regime? Yes. Did they get successful? No. So they were very ambitious. Yes. Once, ఒకసారి కంగారు ఒకసారి చూపిస్తాను ఎక్కడో నేను చూపిస్తానే. Let us once look at the whole thing. Why are we telling that he made many mistakes of serious nature? If they were not very big and very, ambitious projects, why are we telling they are of very serious nature? What is an ambitious project? Something that can't be done. You know it can't be done, but you're still doing it. Magnanimous. Okay, I don't know that word. What does that mean?
Most important project.
Okay, what was the word? Magnum opus. Okay. Thanks, new word. All right. Okay, so when we are telling that he made very big mistakes, we understand that these were the kind of projects which were those ambitious ones. 200 class not only failed to bloom, but turned into poisonous weeds. That means not only was it doing what it was intended to do, it did the exact opposite of it. And which one was the other one? The Great Leap. Great Leap turned out to be a total failure. So both of these, which were big, became his mistakes. So B, we can think of that way. What about C? Mao believed that Khrushchev was great leader. Nevertheless, what?
Great leader, nevertheless.
Oh, he was just a great leader, nevertheless. Okay. But that's again wrong, because Mao thought that he fell because of something. So there's a reason for him not to be a great leader over there. What is, yeah, that's your confusion with C. What? Directly mentioned. If you directly mention it, it becomes a conclusion of the passage. Inference matlab kya hai? What must be true given this? Okay, just because we have seen that Khrushchev had fallen, you have to ask yourself the question, can I say that he was a great leader nevertheless? Obviously not, because he has fallen, he is not a great leader. Now, what about D? Mao was the first down-to-earth political philosopher and strategist to realize the proactive role out of scope. You thought D would be the answer?
Because like in the opposite scene, the first part of the statement, he was ruthless but also cool.
He was?
Ruthless, but he was also cool. Like he was very down to earth, basic.
In this case, crude ante, no, ala I must assume చేసుకోవడం crude ante very old fashioned. I think I told old fashioned, no? Right. No. Someone who's a crude person is someone old fashioned. That is not basic. That's not okay. Minimalist. Okay. So B will be our only inference that we can conclude. See, always ask yourself whenever they're giving you inference-based questions, can I convert this into a specific detailed question? That's the first thing. If you're not able to follow inference-based question directly, make it a specific detailed one. Go back to the place where he has mentioned about that. Read 2 lines above, 2 lines below. Inference key, you cannot directly make a link. What do you have to do? You have to link it through the main idea. Is this option at least following my main idea or not? As long as that option is following your main idea, it is inferring from the passage, don't you know? You got the logic? Yeah, now you're saying something.
Why is it ambitious? Because maybe he wanted to anyhow do good to people, you know. So why is it ambitious? In that situation, option, you know, ego. Once I think you go to some dogma, only that which it can be good things also. So that first, when you're talking about ego also, it can be a good thing also.
Cool. So which part refers to ego? In
Ego
that
is
case.
the
Okay, let it be good ego. I'm saying which part in the passage will be referring to that.
yes, main things to people.
But how does that become ego? Doing good things for people. How does so ego, the literal meaning of ego, not negative, not positive, word meaning is self. Ego means self. Kada? That means he's satisfying himself. Forget about whether it's good for people, bad for people, competitive. Did he do all this for his satisfaction? Is my question.
Because he's doing it for people, other people satisfies himself.
No, from the whole passage, what did he try to do? He tried to bring in a cultural shift. Yes, is he bringing that cultural shift for himself? Yes. So is it for his satisfaction?
He's satisfying.
How do we know that? That's what I'm asking. Because he was the president, it's his role responsibility. Why do you think the passage started with he was this, and then he became this, and then he started doing this?
He became AIDS and because of these things. He used to have other people who do so
He started,
because of all these things which took place.
okay, if he's doing it for the people, why did he suddenly shift his model when he saw it's not working in urban state? Why people kada?
Why is he doing it?
I don't know why he's doing it. My only explanation that I can understand from this part is that because he is the president of that party, he's doing that party's work. Again, if you see at the last also, he brought it down to the party office questions only. Are you seeing that? It's not that he did everything by himself. The biography is about him. That's why we are talking about him related to what his office has done. ఇప్పుడు జగన్ ఏమో కొండ కొట్టించాడు జగన్ కొట్టించిందంటామా వైఎస్ఆర్సీపీ కొట్టించిందంటామా ఆల్దో వైఎస్ఆర్సీపీ గేవ్ పర్మిషన్ జగన్ కొట్టించిందనే అంటాం ఎస్ అది ఆడు స్వార్థం కోసం చేసుకుంటున్నాడు పక్కడి కోసం చేసుకుంటే మనకేం తెలుసు పార్టీ చేయించిందా చేశాడు సెకండ్ థింగ్ ఇఫ్ యూఆర్ ఆస్కింగ్ వాట్ మస్ట్ బి ట్రూ అండ్ హియర్ కమ్స్ ద పాయింట్ దట్ హీ హ్యాడ్ మేడ్ సీరియస్ మిస్టేక్స్ డస్ దట్ మీన్ he knew this wouldn't work and he did it? Okay, what does it mean?
He won't know, sir, whether he is successful or not.
Cool.
That's why he did it.
But can I say that he knows that the work is a very big work or it will be like, something considerably humongous? So can I say you aspiring to do something considerably humongous in your regime is an ambitious one?
That also we cannot say he is doing it. So the party must have done it.
No, nothing. Ante, in the range of him, the party. In his spirit, the party. And down also same thing. In his spirit, the party. ఇప్పుడు నువ్వు వెళ్ళేమో క్లాస్ ఇచ్చావు అంటే ఎపెక్స్ క్లాస్ ఇచ్చిందని అంటారు కోచింగ్ క్లాస్ ఇచ్చింది అంటూ నేను క్లాస్ ఇచ్చాను అంటూ నువ్వు ఆడు క్లాస్ ఇచ్చాడు అంటూ అవునా ఇఫ్ యూ కమ్ టీచ్ హియర్ ఇట్ విల్ బి లైక్ యూ టాట్ ద క్లాస్ ఆర్ విల్ బి సే దట్ ఏపెక్స్ గేవ్ మీ అ క్లాస్ ఏపెక్స్ గేవ్ మీ అ క్లాస్ సో యాజ్ you're going and representing that office. Correct? Adhananda. Yeah, you guys clear with this? Yes, Roshan? Okay. Yeah, I think this is a specific detailed question now. This one you must have gotten correct. Yes, D. This is a direct question. Anyone who got this wrong? You got this wrong? Why? What happened? Which one did you put?
Yes.
Which one of the following best describes Mao's views regarding Marxism? Where did he talk about Marxism? The moment he says Marxism, can I come off to this part? What's happening? I can come to this part, no? It said Rasunda. So from here, what do you get? He advocated a radical and persuasive policy to adapt it. No, you said A, no? What does radical mean? Sudden. Okay, something that's extremely sudden. That's let us say that you thought of this policy change today, tomorrow it happened. How did Marxism come into China? Can you tell me a little bit about it from your understanding of the passage?
Marxism was completely different compared to Chinese.
Marxism. Compared to Chinese Marxism, normal Marxism was different. So what was the process of Marxism becoming Chinese Marxism? Correct. So how was it radical?
I didn't see radical.
Okay, but how was it persuasive either? He didn't persuade anyone to follow anything, no? He changed it according to people's need, kada? Yes, persuasive ante enti, me trying to convince you to do something. If she has not done this question, last question she said that I know. I said, I persuaded her to answer that question anyhow. Correct. So A won't be the thing. And he thought that proletarianism could not be applied verbatim to the typical conditions of China. That's what he realized from fourth and fifth paragraphs together. That is why in urban, he could not go with proletarian society. Okay, only in the rural, he could go with that proletariat society and get Marxism in the rural settings first. Are you getting this point? Yes. Someone, you have a doubt? Yes. Huh? Yeah, this also a specific detailed question only. There's nothing to infer in this. So obviously we know that Mao's conference, this whole thing comes on last line. Yes, we've recognized that. So Mao's conference in present initiative and resourcefulness became a cause of tension. That means maybe there was disagreement. Yes, between him and the political pragmatists after liberation. So one thing we can understand that they were not on the same page. Yes. Now, what's the degree of that? We'll have to see. We don't know about the degree of it, but they're not on the same page. That much we understand. A had a divergent opinion about the methodology and likely results of cultural revolution, differed in their approach to urban reactionary politics, did not have a common approach regarding the national politics, differ strongly versus their approach to peasant initiative. Now, very honestly speaking, if you have not understood the passage very well, do not attempt this question. Okay? Because all of them talk about the same thing, that they have differed. The only problem is in this context, because it's a specific detailed question, you have to look at this part, which is over here. Okay, but if you're not really clearly understood it, you might think it's any one of them. Come on. Oh, yeah.
I asked you not the option because the other options are anyone also listening.
They're not so.
Not so related to
The last line, yeah.
So, I have one option. I think in one of the mocks you said that specific data is there, then nothing is there for us to infer.
I didn't get you.
Specific data of the last is just the inference based question on arguments. Now, so it almost like specific data is how can we infer this which are our questions. You don't remember what the task is to say specifically already there, then how can we inference something else?
So I'm not entirely sure about what which one it was, but okay, if I'm getting your question right, and if this would be my answer, if a fact is mentioned, it means a premise has been given during the statement. Think about it from a critical reasoning perspective. Okay, you will consider that fact in your conclusion, but if they're asking you to infer something, you won't take that exact fact and make your inference, no? Yes, that's what. Obviously, you won't take that exact fact from there and make your inference. Why? Because inference is what must be true if this is there, not what is there. Specific detail is what is there. And both of them, please remember, are in the spirit of your main idea only. So your main idea becomes the assumption always. In any of this scenario, your main idea is always the assumption. That's always there in the behind of your mind. That if this doesn't work, nothing else works. Cool? Are you clear about this? चलो ठीक है. हाँ जी बताओ. Ball? Delhi, okay. All the foreign tactics were used by Mao to impress the Chinese, except that he molded Marxism, obviously, clearly stated in the passage. See, he borrowed accounts from ancient, yes, that also is written writings and all. He's taken history and writings, and I don't remember where exactly it is. I don't want to search also. Yeah. He used anecdotes from writing, ancient writings and all. Now I'm recording the solutions for your tests also, no? The same thing is happening. I'm remembering that I read it somewhere, but I'm not able to find it where exactly. So I'm again having to read it, like skim through the passage 3-4 times. Then I'm realizing, okay, skimming is waste. Let me once read it properly again. I'll underline it when I'm reading on. So it's taking time. So when you see the solutions, you'll realize that. Okay, he used language of the Chinese peasants. That also he's done. I don't again remember where, but he has done that. Oh, okay, fine. Oh, yeah. And the language of peasants to make the political points. Very nice. And he believed that the personality type was absolutely necessary and upheld it. Now, this was not for using Marxism for Chinese people. Again, did he do this or not is not the question. The question is, did he do this for that? He did not do this for that. Good. How many of you have done this passage? I like this passage a lot. Maza aa gaya padh ke, matlab, I remembered my mercantile law classes. Yeah? Oh no. Oh, neat walkout question వచ్చిందా? I was thinking passage law question రావడం. Okay. Right. What about you? You didn't attempt this? Okay. Lochan? No, you did all of the questions. Did you get all correct? Okay, good. No, why? You didn't like the topic? Were you there when I explained how to skim through the passage? Look at today's recording, first 20 minutes, you'll get it. Sakshmit, did you attempt this passage? Did you get all correct? No, how many? 2 correct, 2 wrong, huh? 1 wrong. Only 3 questions for this passage, yeah? Okay. 4 are there, no? One passage had 5 questions, if I'm not wrong. For next passage, yeah? Previously, I had only 4 questions. I don't remember which passage had 5 questions. I remember one passage had 5 questions. Yeah, yesterday only, we started solving this. I went off home. Right, Hema, did you solve this? No? Why you don't like this topic? Not familiar with it? Time dark. You got 2 correct. 2 wrong. Okay, so this was 4 questions now. Okay. I'm sorry, I saw like crash. I thought, okay, it broke. How many did you attempt? You did not attempt.
Starting by
Okay, you thought this is psychology.
No, I thought this is something about people like under directly questions.
Okay. What about you, Suman? No, you didn't attempt this. Why? You attempted only one passage and all VA. This mock discussion is very useful for you. For people who have done VA, this is very useful. Yeah, what about you, Chakri? You've not attempted this. Why? Okay, what was your reasoning when you didn't attempt this? Oh, no. Next passage is only lengthy, I know, dude. That's what I mean. Oh, okay, compared to last passage. No, because see, I told you, if you're feeling that some passage is very unfamiliar, I thought most of you would leave this passage. I actually thought most of you would leave the third passage. A, more number of questions. B, very lengthy. C, it's kind of complicated to understand. Yeah. It's not entirely psychology, it's kind of philosophy only. Humanities, of course, broadly. Comes under sociology and all. Job relations and all, no? Yeah. It's not psychology passage. You attempted this? Next one. So all of you attempted this passage, huh? All of you got this passage correct at least? Yes. So we'll not discuss this. Let's go to the other two and finish them. Yes, please start reading this particular. Yeah, please start reading this passage. You want my phone? Okay. Yeah, tell me now. Is that done? Yes, okay. So what does he say? He says, since the dawn of since the dawn of recorded law. What does that mean? जब से law शुरू हुआ है. From when law has been started being observed. Okay. Western societies have recognized that some people should be held liable for their acts because they're non-compos mentis. Non-compos mentis is again Latin. Okay, for not in their right mind. That means who? Mental people should not be punished. That's the first part. Can I say that that becomes my main idea? Yes. So now do you see how you can derive main idea from the first line? It won't be directly your first line, but it will be an what do you say? Inference from the first line. This is inference. Now, this exemption from criminal sanctions was seen as an act of mercy required by basic morality. This principle was well established in English common law, and from there into the law of the United States. In this scenario of ever rising criminal instances, the question has always been the kind and degree of insanity that would excuse its victim from the punishment from an act which, if done by the same person, would bring upon the sanctions of the law. What does that mean? Just because you're mentally ill does not exclude you from any punishment. Okay, does not exempt you from any punishment, not exclude you. But how mentally ill are you, or what is the degree to which your functioning has been impaired, becomes the actual criteria. Okay, even in India, if you look at it, there are specific laws. I can actually look through my notes and tell you about it. It talks about whether a person was of sane mind or not, while not only doing the act, but also planning this act. So if someone planned the act in sane mind and executed it while not being in consciousness, that person is still liable. For example, let us say that your friend stole money from you, or your friend broke you up with your girlfriend. You want to take revenge. What do people do? They get drunk, they'll start smashing the car. You planned everything in the right frame of mind. Okay. Second thing, if your insanity comes because of your own doing, you're not exempted. నేను తాగేసి and drugs చేసాను. I did drugs. I was under the influence of alcohol. So I, went and committed this accident. No one listened to you. If you are mad and you have done an accident, okay, that's not your responsibility. Okay, chalo, theek hai. Aage padhte hain. Next, what does he say? Yeah, as put in the House of Lords in 1843, until 20th century, little was known about mental illness. Judging whether a person was deranged, seriously mentally ill, or irrational was seen as a matter of common knowledge. In case of, I know when I see it. That means there was no classical test to, tell who is mentally ill and who is not. You would see a person and say, "Ah, I pictured it. Ye pagal hai." Got it? The courts try to. So, what will be the summary of this particular paragraph? What will be the summary of that particular paragraph? Is that the only idea? Okay. You left out the main point. Mentally ill patients were exempted from punishment. Okay. Because there was no clear definition of what mentally ill is or what mental illness is. Okay. So one is enough.
No, sir, this is like mozzarella cheese.
Mozzarella?
GST on cheese.
Okay. Why?
No, sir, no, there is no specific.
I don't know how we are comparing, finance to this, but okay, maybe you are comparing it. Okay, me mind lo baane unnadi. But here what he is saying is this only. There's no fixed, punishment for mentally ill people because you don't know how mentally ill they are or how we can classify them to be mentally ill. Clear? Yes? Okay, next. The courts tried to codify and standardize the concept of criminal insanity by 18th century. The commonly applied legal test in England was that of man should be found not guilty by reason of insanity, the NGRA, not guilty by reason of insanity. If he is totally deprived of his understanding and memory and does not know what he is doing, it does not know what he is doing. Okay, it's a mistake. I use that too, but for us, it does not know. Okay, no more than an infant, than a brute. What is a brute? And someone who does not have human intellect. A brute is not always an animal. That's why I say, hey, what a brute. Okay, someone who does not have human intellect. Ain't it? Oh, it's too brute. Okay, yeah, you were saying? Oh, okay. Right, okay. A wild beast, such one is never the object of punishment. Okay, but now I don't know. I think it's IPC 324 or something, wherein you can be punished even if you employ an animal to do your dirty deeds. For example, let's say शाश्वती मेरे घर आई, मेरे को नहीं पसंद आया, मैं बोला Shiro go bite. Okay, she can put a case again that he used his dog to attack. Alright, so animals know what they're doing, of course, but they don't know the moral dimension of it. Courts continue to waver between holding any person guilty who knew what he was doing and holding to account only those who were morally aware of the wrongness of their action. What does that mean? Does he know what he's doing, or does he know how it affects the people? Okay. Next, the problem with this formula is that we tend to measure the wickedness of an actor by a degree of outrage over the act. What does that mean? If you rape, it's a very big, heinous crime. But if you steal 1 crore from someone, it's a financial issue. It's not that big a crime. That 1 crore might be his entire life savings. Uske paas kangal ho gaya hoga wo. Fir bhi that's not a bigger crime. That's what he's saying. The wickedness of the crime by our understanding. Okay, now our outrage. That means how angry we get at it. This allows room for bias, moral condemnation, and the impulse for retribution to enter the process. So what does this mean? This means that there could be bias, yes, and people could condemn. That means people could start making what? Going against what the people of these judges and all are doing, that this is not morally right. In Ayodhya case, that's what happened. When one thing was given as a verdict, people went and said, this is not morally right, you can't do this to our God. Then the other faction came and said, this is not morally right for us. Okay, so morals are, how do I say? It's changeable in a way. But, okay, let's not deviate. Let's not talk about morals, it's going to take a lot of time. Yeah. So this allows room for some error. We'll have to understand that if we go by this process, it'll allow room for error. And what's that process? Knowing whether he actually understands the moral consequences of that particular act that he has done. The current legal definition of insanity has no psychiatric correlate. It's a pure creature of law, owing nothing to the psychiatry and science of brain and behavior. Lack of psychiatric correlate makes it look like psychiatrists and psychologists are unreliable of that mental illness is purely subjective. That fact is, mental health experts often can't agree on whether a defendant fits into the legal definition of insanity, even though they agree about the defendant's diagnosis and degree of psychiatric impairment. So basically, what's he saying? There's a difference between legal insanity and psychiatric insanity. That's the main idea from this particular paragraph. Yes, Chakri, are you listening? Okay. If jurors don't identify with the defendant, perhaps because of their ethnic, racial, or gender or demographic status differences, and if they fear the defendant's criminal act is one that particularly shocks the conscience, acquittal is unlikely. Acquittal is what? What do you mean by acquittal? Yeah, being free. Okay, baizat bari kar dena mushkil hai. No matter how mentally ill, delusional, or irrational the defendant was at the time of commission of the crime, I believe this accounts in part for defense attorney's hesitation to raise an insanity defense. Okay, that means why would these defense attorneys not want to use the insanity defense? Because sometimes if people have a problem identifying with these mentally ill people, they don't care if you're mentally ill or not. They will book you as a what? Person who has committed the crime. So guilty person. Okay. Approximately 15% of those incarcerated in US prisons have serious mental health disorders, but only 1% of all felony defendants plead not guilty by reason of insanity, and only a quarter of those are found in NGRI in spite of strong psychiatric evidence. Guys, please mute yourself. Okay. Yeah. So what does this mean? This means that a very small population of those people who have been incarcerated, who have been jailed, okay, are actually under the, what is this, provision of NGRI. Okay, as Nygaard said, the legal definition of insanity is in such nebulous and often psychologically meaningless terms. What is nebulous? Huh? Hazy, cloudy, unclear, water vapor. Yeah, that's what, cloudy, hazy, unclear. Okay, nebulous is unclear. Uh, it results in almost wholly arbitrary decisions as to who knows right from wrong. These numbers suggest that, to paraphrase Shakespeare, the insanity defense is more honored in its breach than its observance. That means we now know that many people are convicted because of insanity defense than because people got saved because of insanity defense. Okay. All of you are clear with this passage? Yes? All of you understood this now? So see, we are not writing anything on the board, but you guys get the summary. What's the main idea? No. Yes, distinction between legal and psychiatric insanity. Okay, can we take that as the main idea? Yes? Clear, all of you? Okay, what's the writing style? Sumant. రేపు ఇంటర్వ్యూకి వెళ్తే ఇలాగే అడగరా రోషన్ Aditya, analytical, okay. He's giving all the details, yes. But what is he analyzing over here?
What is actually mental health and how is it legal?
What is analysis? Huh?
What is the actual definition of mental health? And how it is being perceived?
What is the actual definition of mental health? Show me now where it is. ఇవ్వలేదు కదా మరి ఎందుకు చెప్పారు? Okay, what is the argument? What is he trying to convince you about? Okay, so is he trying to convince you that you should punish mentally ill patients depending on the degree of insanity? Did he convince you of that? Did he convince? You got convinced about it? You shouldn't have, because that's not what he's trying to say. He used that point. I'm not saying he didn't use that point, but that was an example to support what? That people do not agree upon what should be the punishment range, or which kind of punishment should be given to who. Why don't they agree? Tell me, try. Because the legal definition of illness, this mental illness, and psychological definition changes. There's one line, I don't remember exactly where, but I remember reading one line which talks about a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists have come up to a diagnosis. Okay, but it does not match with what the legal insanity talks about. Do you remember that line? Good to know. No? Find it. Do you guys remember that line? Can you please find where it is? Okay, yeah. The lack of psychological psychiatric correlate makes it looks like psychologists and psychiatrists are unreliable, or that mental illness is purely subjective. But the fact is, mental health experts often can't agree on whether a defendant fits into the legal definition of insanity, even though they agree about the defendant's diagnosis and degree of psychiatric impairment. Chakri, నేను చదువుతున్నాను రా. Oh, okay. Confusion, huh? So we can't take that to be the what? Yes. Because that's not the argument. He's not saying you have to punish it with this part. If that was our argumentative essay, you know how this would come out? He would have told you at 40% mental illness. Or here he has already told Kada, while planning, while doing the moral conscience, the other two, three things he has already told us. Does he know what he's doing and does he have the moral conscience? Those are the two demarcations he has said. Then he would have told us, yes, everyone without a moral conscience will push off as mentally insane. Then it would have become an argumentative. He's pushing down on that argument. Yes, for these kind of people, you give this punishment and method. Then you can get convinced. Here it is a descriptive passage. He's describing that there is a difference between legal insanity and psychiatric insanity. That's all. He doesn't want to convince you of anything. He just wants to inform you that there's a difference. Okay. What are I didn't say only because of the facts at the beginning. Even throughout the structure, it's come in a chronological way. कि पहले ये हुआ, फिर उसने ये किया, इसमें ऐसे ऐसे इन चारों चीजों में उसने फेल हुआ, उसके बाद वो ये किया, इसमें उसने ये किया, तीन चार चीज एक के बाद एक, because this did not work. So that becomes who, when, what, where, how. यहाँ पे मेरे को वो सब नहीं मिल, मेरे को क्या मिल रहा है, ये चीज के बारे में ये यहाँ पे स्टार्ट हुआ. What part is given, when part is given, why, how, वो सब तो नहीं बोला मेरे को. Right. So we have 5W, 1H. The more it clears, the more factual it gets. You have specific characters. Like how in Mao thing we talked about proletariat, that becomes a specific fact. We talked about how in urban it changed, how in this it changed. That becomes specific facts. Here we have nothing like that. Okay, so this is an informative passage. That's a factual fact. What happened? Is that your doubt too? Which one? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's an informative passage. That was a factual passage, the previous one. Andukan Abra what happened? Dude, I taught you descriptive passages, no? Descriptive means informative. Alternate words, okay, for example, argumentative, we are using persuasive one, no? Like that. You want me to share the screen? Guys, if you want something, please unmute yourself and ask me. If you're not unmuting yourself, I'm looking at the thing, no, I won't be able to see your message. Okay, please ask me, unmute yourself. I'll share my screen. Can you see my screen? I think we just did this particular passage. Yes. So you can all see my screen now. Okay, let's go to the questions. Come on. Start here. Take your time. Solve. How many of you got this question correct? How many of you got it wrong? You got it correct? Okay. The others, you got it wrong? You attempted this? Lochan? Sudala? Suman? Oh, you didn't attempt. Something correct? Huh? Okay. Roshan? Okay. Do it. Come on. Correct? You got it wrong. Karo. Wapas karo. Wrong వచ్చింది కరెక్ట్ వచ్చింది అది ఓ అటెంప్ట్ చేయలేదు ఇప్పుడు చేస్తున్నావా you didn't come on then attempt it like you are attempting it now. Yeah. నేను అదే అందుకే చూస్తున్నానండి మరి ఏలో నీకు ఏమర్థమైంది ఒకసారి చెప్పినప్పుడు వాట్ డిడ్ యూ అండర్స్టాండ్ ఇన్ ఇట్ ఓకే చక్రి వన్స్ టెల్ మీ ప్యాసేజ్ లో నీకేం అర్థమైంది Do you think mentally ill people have some morals? No, no. What is he saying in that insanity defense has distinctly made way for morality in criminal judgments?
So, for example, some difference.
ఇన్సానిటీ డిఫెన్స్ లోని మొరాలిటీకి ఏమొచ్చి ఒక చోట ఏర్పడింది ఇప్పుడు. దానివల్ల మెంటలీ ఇల్ వాళ్ళని వాళ్ళు లోపల పెడుతున్నారు. అది అవుతుందా? అలా అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు ఒకసారి. బికాస్ ఈ సేయింగ్ అగెయిన్స్ట్ ద మెంటలీ ఇల్, నో? So you are thinking judges are being moral? Oh, no, అదంతలేదు. How many of you understood the first option as judges are being moral? Anyone of you understood like that? No, judges are being moral అని అయితే వాడు అనట్లేదు. What he's saying is insanity defense has made way for morality. That means they brought in the concept of morality. Insanity defense has brought in the concept of morality. And because of that concept of morality, we are having criminal judgments against the mentally ill people. వాళ్ళకి వ్యతిరేకంగా మనం మొరాలిటీని వాడుతున్నాం insanity defense వల్ల అంటున్నారు. Now you understand it? Okay, see, if I'm telling towards అంటే ఏంటి? You are going to rescue them, no? Against is what? Opposing, no? What does that mean?
Since I am when judgment is given against the mentally ill people, morality is considered as insanity defense.
Okay, if judgment is already given against someone, what are you considering then? You'll consider something and then give judgment, kada? కారణం ఇప్పుడు నువ్వు ఉన్నావురా, నువ్వు ఏదైనా తప్పు చేసావు లేదా నేను ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్స్ విన్నాక నీకు జడ్జ్మెంట్ ఇస్తాను. నువ్వు జడ్జ్మెంట్ ఇచ్చి దాని తర్వాత ఆలోచిస్తాను. ముందేమో ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్స్ విని మొరాలిటీ ఉందో లేదో చూసి ఆ మొరాలిటీ లేదీడికి అందుకు ఇంక తోసే మెంటలీ ఇల్లని నేను చెప్తాను కదా, అనకూడదు కదా. మరి ఆడు అక్కడ అదే చేస్తున్నాడు. Now you understood what I'm saying? Yeah, answers here, the others. If that's not there, then okay. Dude, you don't answer this question. If this is a confusion that you're getting in the exam, don't answer that question. Okay. Be sure about what you're thinking and then only attempt the question. All of you, don't take any question onto ego. If you spend 8 minutes on a passage, you don't answer any question, I'm still fine with it. Okay? Start going to the next passage immediately. Ante kani, don't waste your resources on questions that you're not understanding. Chalo. In B, he said it's immoral to exact vengeance against a person who didn't know that his behavior was wrong. That means when you're not sure, neither do you have the morality to base upon, then I should not exact vengeance. Which the author is likely to agree because it supports the main idea. Not only this, even in strengthening the passage question or strengthening the argument questions, you should think like that only. You should look which option supports the main idea and go tick that option. Do we need to look at C and D, or have you all eliminated C and D already? Yes? Okay, let's go to the next question. Let's quickly finish these questions here. How many of you left this question in mock? Acha, attempt it like it for mock.
We know consequences of the action. They are not afraid of the consequences of the action. So after influence, they are not afraid of the consequences of the action. They are able to.
Since they don't know or they're not able to comprehend their act, they're not afraid of the consequence.
They are not able to understand morality, but they know that there's a consequence and they're not.
If they're not aware of what they're doing, they're not aware of the punishment either. Ante kada. When you see, when do you know an act is correct or wrong? When you have the sense of morality. The distinctive point about mental illness. The distinctive point about mental illness over here is what? That they do not have morality. Correct? So we cannot talk about effects, consequences in that case. Answer? C. Okay. You like A or what, dude? Okay. The proportion of criminal acts done by mentally ill are negligible as compared to those done by compos mentis. Which, okay, once let us read the question, okay? Forget about option. Which of the following, if true, weaken the author's argument for insanity depends on the basis of non-compos mentis? First of all, tell me what is the author's argument about non-compos mentis? Yeah, because they're not in the right mind, let's not punish them. Simple argument. आड़िक तेलीज़ा आड़ेन जैसे उसको नहीं पता वो क्या किया क्यों punish करें उसको is what he's saying. What are you saying? Number of acts done by people who are insane is less compared to that done by people who are sane. Okay, once tell me this step, again, let us say that you were a kid. So you went and you said something very stupid in front of your parents. Okay. And they asked your relatives to excuse you because you're a child. Does that mean that adults speak more bullshit than children? ఎక్కడ సంబంధం లేదు కదా మరి ఇక్కడ ఎలా వచ్చిందిరా How? Okay, please tell me how is it weakening the argument? Let us say that that is true. 90% of the crimes are committed by non-mentally ill people. That means mentally healthy patients. I, you, Roshan, Saraswati, all of us are committing crimes. Okay, you guys are committing on that. But yeah, mentally ill patients, still there are 10%. The question is, what should I do with them now? 99%, 1% untrue. The question still is the same, no? So how is it weakening the argument? నా బాధ అర్థమైందా నీకు అలా కాదురా ఇప్పుడు let us say chocolate ice cream is the best, okay, and idiots eat mango ice cream. If I'm giving someone okay, because chocolate ice cream is the best, mango ice creams don't get sold. How does it matter if 99 people are ordering chocolate and one person is ordering strawberry? Either way, the mango is not getting sold, no? My argument is what? If it's mango, don't sell it. Does it matter to you how many people are ordering other types of ice creams?
No.
So why is it bothering to you how many people are mentally ill and how many people are mentally not ill? When all I'm saying is don't punish the mentally ill. Patient A comes, you check he's mentally ill or not. You say, I'll punish you because you're not mentally ill. Patient B comes, you say you're mentally ill, so I won't punish you. That's all, no? How does it matter if you get 100 patient A's and only one patient B? Now you got the point? So A is not your correct answer. Yes, the others. Can we get the right answers, please? C, okay. Anyone else stuck between any other option here? C, are you stuck with any other option for this question? No? Okay, so we are already 5 minutes late. So we'll do this later again. Can't go forward with this for longer. Tada. What about the rest of the para summaries and all? Did you guys do that correct, wrong? Andha wrong? Touchword cheyaleda. Those of you who have not attempted any question in this mock, take it as a homework. Do it by this weekend. Okay? All the questions that are unattempted in this mock, do it by the weekend, like a mock only. Then get back to me about it. Okay? Next week after 11, we can sit for 10 minutes outside. Okay? I'll try to come in the morning. So, bye-bye. You, my friend, have to read more. You're not reading enough. No, this comprehension, these are not very, how do I say?